Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Brendan, and here we teach that what you are thinking feelingly and imagining throughout your day is creating your physical experience. Now, today I want to talk to you about something that became very clear re-listening to one of my favorite Neville Goddard lectures called North of the Strip. So if you haven't heard this lecture, it's not too long, but he gives a wonderful account of a woman's experience using the law. And I think it's a wonderful demonstration of a powerful self concept being your idea of what is true about life, about yourself. So, what happened in this story I think is wonderful because it's also a story of persistence. I was asked to make a video about persisting when 3D goes opposite. Using this story, I can give some peace and some confidence in your own experience if, say, you're manifesting something and your world goes completely in the opposite direction, even for just a short period of time. So, this married woman had explained this story to Neville, and it was about her getting a new house. So, at the time, she had been living in her house with her husband, and her husband wanted to sell their house. And she wasn't quite wanting to sell at that point in time, but because it was both their house, she said, I'll let him try. I'll let him try to sell it. So he put the house up for sale. But what she said to herself within was, I know that this house will not sell until I stop sleeping in it. And so that means sleeping in it, not just physically, but in imagination, right? So, for example, if you wanted to move into a new home, the idea is to fall asleep in your new home using your imagination so that you're not just falling asleep in the same home each night. So, with her strong power of belief, she knew that nothing in this world will change until you change what you're imagining. Okay, so in her case, it was just the house, but it could be physical changes. It could be your financial situation. It could be your relationship situation. Nothing in this world will change until you change what you are imagining. So in her case, she said, this house will not sell until I stop sleeping in it. So if you want physical changes, then you could even say the same thing to yourself. I know that this body will not change until I stop living as it the way that it is now. You must use your imagination creatively, often, make it your dwelling place. Make your state of consciousness one of fulfillment, where you already are where you desire to be, what you desire to be, one with everything you desire. Because as long as you continue to identify with things as they are and imagine things to be as they are physically, then your world will not change. So that's a very, very important point. I hope you understand. So, continuing with the story, the house didn't sell. The husband tried to sell it, but she wasn't willing to sell, so she continued to sleep in it night after night, knowing that it wouldn't sell until she changed what she was imagining. But a time came in the future where she did want to move. She did want to sell the house and get a new place. They wanted to get a larger place that was really 2 units in one so that the in-laws could move in. And she also had some very specific desires for a bit of land, some fences for dogs. And so she had all these very specific desires for this house. So she and her husband talked about it. And so she crafted this ideal house in her mind, okay, in her mind's eyes, so that she could then begin to fall asleep night after night in that home. And so as she started to do this, they went through the natural process. They went to the realtor and telling them what they desired and the price they desired it at. The realtor said, there is no home in this area with everything that you desire, and we could get double the price you're asking for if it did exist. But she persisted. Most people would stop. Most people would hear that and say, well, the realtor said it. The realtor knows everything about this area. So, of course, they yield to the seeming facts of the world, which, again, as Neville Goddard said, are the stones of Scripture. When you let these facts of the world stop you and kill your dream, you are being stoned to death. So it could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your realtor telling you the facts of the world. They're stoning you. If you let it stop you, they stone you to death. But it's up to you. Again, in the last video, we talked about how in John, Jesus said, "No one takes my life. I lay it down myself. I have the power to lay it down and I have the power to raise it up again." So are you going to let these facts of the world take away your life and your power and your ability to create your reality? Are you going to yield to the stones, to the facts of the world? Or will you persist, even when the realtor says that what you want is impossible, as this woman did? She continued, despite what they said, to sleep night after night in her ideal home, as she imagined it to be. And so, meeting up with the realtor again, one of the other associates in the building said, "Why don't you show them the house over on the hill?" It was a home that pretty much met every single thing that she wanted. But the only problem was that there was an older woman living in it who was not ever going to budge as far as their imagination went. She was never going to budge and give anyone any sort of chance to make an offer. But they did tour the home, and this woman who had been imagining saw it as perfect. It was everything she asked for and more. And so, seeing that it was as she desired, she began imagining herself not just falling asleep in that home, but also seeing her husband almost in a celebratory manner, lighting a cigar by the fireplace, something that she knew would naturally happen if her desire were fulfilled. And so doing this, thinking feelingly, imagining, knowing that as she imagines, she is creating her reality, she remained faithful, despite the realtors not being sure, despite the older woman being known for not allowing anyone to make an offer on her home. And what ended up happening is they decided to put forth an offer. And the realtor said the old woman would never take it. But the husband in the story became a little upset. He said, "You are the realtor. Is it your job or not to make the offer we want?" And so they said, "All right, we'll make it." And somehow, some way, the old woman that owned the property decided to split the property and give them everything they wanted at the price that they wanted. Everything worked out when it was so impossible. Okay, so this is a wonderful demonstration because we don't know what our bridge of incidents will be. All right, and if you don't persist, then you are turning around on your bridge. You're turning around and going back to that former state of limitation. So some people find it hard to persist or even believe that what they want to manifest is possible because they haven't seen proof. They haven't seen any physical proof, or people with photos if they've manifested physical changes. And so I want to just remind you that even if they did post photos, if there were people posting, "Hey, I got this height change. Hey, I changed my face," or whatever it is that you may think is difficult to manifest or impossible, would you really believe it anyways? It's the internet. They could be lying. They could have just gotten plastic surgery. Are you really going to believe it anyways? Probably not. Okay, so your mind is just finding whatever excuse to prevent you from expanding past your limitation. So right now it's proof, and then you get the proof, and then you don't believe the proof. Okay, so what then? You just persist in staying in your state of limitation, thinking that things are impossible to you. You don't need proof from the outside world. This outside world is a shadow. Go within and prove it to yourself. Go within and feel how you want to feel right now and see what happens. Give yourself the chance. All things are possible to God. All things are possible to one who believes. Matthew and Mark in the Bible telling you exactly the truth. It doesn't say just some things. It doesn't say just a financial situation can change, just your relationship situation can change, just your home that you're living in can change. No. All things are possible to God. So it doesn't matter if you want a huge house with, 2-in-1 for the in-laws and a big yard with a fence for your dogs and all these things that realtors may tell you doesn't exist. Or it doesn't matter if you want to grow 6 inches taller at the age of 32. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you're willing to believe it. Okay? And so maybe it's hard to jump straight into feeling it real. Maybe first, if you really recognize that the problem is belief that it's possible, if the problem is worthiness, then give yourself the opportunity to imagine how you would feel if you knew it were possible. And I normally don't recommend imagining in steps. Imagining in steps would be like if you wanted a new home, so first you try imagining getting the money so you can buy the home instead of just falling asleep in the home night after night. Okay, that's taking steps, and that usually does not work out well. Maybe for some people, but in my experience, it's really just trying to control, and it shows a lack of trust and imagination, because there are many ways that you could get what you want without trying to make these steps happen. Okay, that's trying to control the bridge of incidents. And the less you feel that need to control, the more you trust infinite intelligence, the God that you are, source within you, to bring it to you easily and effortlessly, it will. It will. So this isn't exactly imagining in steps, but it's just opening your mind to the possibility. Because right now, maybe it's so seemingly impossible that you can't feel it real. You can't really live in it because you think it's in vain. So instead, open your mind up to what would it feel like if it were possible? If you had all the proof you needed, or if it were just a normal thing and not some seemingly impossible thing. Everything is impossible until someone does it. Like Usain Bolt breaking records. You know, if you go back 50 years, what he did would be impossible. But when he did it, then other people started breaking records as well. It only takes one to demonstrate that it is possible. Okay? And so you don't need to go to anyone on the outside. You don't need any proof from the outside, because if you really don't believe, then you're not going to accept any proof that comes anyways. You prove it to yourself. All right? I got a comment the other day. I don't respond to these kinds of things, but the person said, funny how these people, meaning like manifestation teachers, never have any physical proof of their own. Well, what would constitute physical proof to you? Is it your idea of success? Is it your idea of doing something that's impossible? Even if so, if I made a video about it, if you don't believe, you're just going to think I'm lying anyways. And that's how the mind works. Your logical mind, your rational mind, will fight tooth and nail to keep your present limitations, your current beliefs, seeming true to you. You will literally not be able to process information that goes against your belief if you aren't willing to change it. Okay, that's how our life works. That's how the mind works. The subconscious mind is always working to prove to you that what you believe is true, no matter what you believe. So don't look for proof. Don't look to the outside world to always be seemingly in alignment. Sometimes it's not going to seem that way, but it's just your former beliefs, okay? Your former limitations coming up to you for your chance to respond instead of react. If that woman had heard from the realtor that what she wanted didn't exist, and especially not at that price, and she was like most people in the world, she would have given up, which would have been a reaction in line with limitation. But she knew her power. She knew that imagining creates reality. And that's why when her husband tried to sell the house the first time, she knew nothing's going to change unless I change what I'm imagining. So I don't have to worry about the house being sold when I don't want it to be. And then when she was ready, she began to imagine living in her ideal home, the new one she wanted. So nothing in your life is going to change until you change your inner activity of imagination. And that means that you should be willing to be aware of what you're thinking, feelingly, and imagining all throughout your day. Because if you're spending only 5-10 minutes in the morning or at night feeling your wish fulfilled, and then the rest of the time you're allowing your mind to think the thoughts that are aligned with your former limitation, with your limiting beliefs, with your low self-concept, then it's not going to change. It's not going to change. And if it's difficult to flip your thoughts, Say you're manifesting money and throughout the day you find yourself worrying, fearing, doubting, being impatient about manifesting it. Well, those feelings, those thoughts are not in alignment with having or with abundance, okay? The people who have aren't worrying about money. So that means you would be more aligned with wealth consciousness if you could release that worry. It doesn't even mean that you have to flip it and think, I'm so rich, because chances are wealthy people aren't really doing that. But if you can at least pull out the weeds in the garden of your mind, those negative thoughts, those negative emotions, you don't have to flip it if that causes resistance. If it feels good, flip the thought and say, I'm abundant, or give thanks for what you already have. But if not, then at the bare minimum, release the negative. By pulling out those weeds in the garden of the mind all throughout the day, then you're making room for what is naturally within you to grow. And you are naturally good, you are naturally abundant, you are naturally loved, you are naturally worthy, you are naturally capable of what others would call impossible. All things are possible to you. So the more you get out of your own way and release these thoughts, feelings, emotions of former limitation in a peaceful way, in an effortless way, you allow the fullness that you are, your true God self, which is, you are literally God of your experience, okay? You are literally source, the universe, the infinite intelligence of the subconscious mind. It is literally you. But a lot of times our conscious mind is trained to get in the way of that power, trying to control, or being so trained to believe in the facts of the world. But be willing to change that. Be willing to let go of all that. Be willing to open your mind and open your heart to infinite possibilities. Okay? So no matter your situation, persist. And if there's a situation in your life that you don't feel like it's possible to change, know that it certainly can change. But it won't change until you change your inner activity of imagination. That is the source. That is the one cause. That is your reality. This physical experience is just a shadow of that, just a reflection of that. So if you don't like what you're seeing in your physical experience, go within, change your inner activity, put it in alignment with your every ideal, put your every belief in question. Allow yourself to have the most powerful beliefs, all of which are in alignment with your ideal, and be faithful to them, no matter what it looks like. And you'll have it. So I'm sure you found this helpful. If you're interested, you can check out my stand store in the description of this video, or I'll link it in the comments to see what I have to offer. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all very much, and I will see you next time. Take care.